The world can seem upside down at times, which has set me on a journey in search for love, truth, and ultimately personal freedom. Welcome to the Lucas Mack Show. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the Lucas Mack Show. I am Lucas Mack. Thank you for joining me on this journey. This is a beautiful episode with Samantha Thomas. Her and I met recently by Ryan Picarella, who introduced us. I've had Ryan on the podcast before, and we talk in this episode about her journey, all that she's done. She's done incredible things to help people really drop the veil between using love in the corporate world and understanding their personal power and the beauty that can happen when we bring love as the forefront of our purpose and our work. I'm really honored to have Samantha on the podcast. So without any further delay, here's Samantha. All right, brothers and sisters, like I shared, what a blessing to have Samantha Thomas on. Samantha, really excited to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Lucas, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
You know, when we met, first of all, Ryan, shout out to hello, Ryan, for introducing. But since you and I met, I've really, I don't know, it felt like just a great blessing and encouragement meeting you and seeing all the work that you've done and all the behind the scenes work I can tell that you've put in and supporting so many people. But now it's fun to bring you back, I guess, almost like a revival of Samantha Thomas to the world.
I'm back. I'm here. Yes, thank you, Lucas. I do enjoy being behind the scenes very much and don't feel the need to be center stage or my voice being the one heard all the time. Though I do have some things that I care deeply about and like to share from time to time. Sometimes through other people and other avenues, but it's also nice to be on a platform like yours and have a space where I can just have a dialogue with you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There's so many things I want to chat with you about, but why don't we talk about how did you even get the idea for the Love Summit? Because I think that mission, you and I are so connected on the intent and purpose on that, but when did that spark for you?
The idea for the Love Summit sparked when I was working as executive director of a nonprofit called Dream Change, and we were looking at, speaking of revival, ways to revive an organization that had been around for about 30 years, but then
Mm.
went into a period of dormancy when its founder, John Perkins, became a best-selling author, and he
Mm.
just didn't have as much time to focus on the nonprofit because he was traveling the world speaking and giving workshops and things like that. And then when I met John at one of his workshops, he talked about Dream Change. It was about to receive the Lennon Ono Grant for Peace. He wanted to put the funds into the organization to revive it. And I came on board to help with that. And then we started looking at, okay, what did Dream Change used to do as an organization? What do we want to have it continue to do, and what are some new programs that we can create? And Dream Change's whole kind of concept and philosophy goes back to indigenous cultures that John worked with in the Amazon rainforest. And
Mm.
he was very saddened by the destruction taking place down there with oil companies coming and drilling on their lands and destroying their the habitat down there and their source of food and water and things like that. And at one point he went to them and he said, I want to help you and help your people. And he said, well, that's great, but if you want to come here and help us, don't try to change us. You have to go back to your people in the
Mm.
West and change the dream of your people, because it's the
Wow.
dream of your people that's causing the destruction down here. So he formed Dream Change, and for many years Dream Change took groups of people like you and me down to the Amazon rainforest to live with indigenous cultures for periods at a time, learn from them, kind of grow with them. And then also we did preservation of Amazon rainforest and other initiatives like that down there. When I came to Dream Change and we were looking at expanding beyond that, we were looking at, okay, the message of Dream Change and everything that it had done so far. And I said to John, it was actually at a board meeting, or not a board meeting. It was a meeting with one of our other board members, Scott James, John Perkins, and myself. And we were just kind of ideating and at one point I said, this all comes down to, yes, changing the dream, but also the changing the way we relate to each other and the planet. And it all comes down to like love and an ethic of love. If we don't change the way we treat each other and the planet and relate to each other and the planet, then it doesn't matter how many solar panels we use, how many Amazon rainforests we, preserve. Think this kind of cycle of what John calls a death economy is just going to continue.
Mm.
So he has this concept of a life economy versus a death economy. I would argue to say it's more of like a love economy. How can we relate to
Mm.
each other and the planet from a place of love rather than fear? And anyways, I'm going on a tangent now, but the
That's
point
good.
is that's where the idea kind of started. And then we decided to create a business conference to reach business leaders, the people that are making so many decisions on a bigger scale that are impacting our world globally,
Yeah.
and government leaders too, to bring them together and talk about, okay, what would it look like to incorporate an ethic of love in business and governance, and what businesses and governments are doing that so far.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how it began. And then I have my own story of like my connection to love and why that was also top of mind and the idea even, sparked when we were talking about those things.
Well, how did you, first of all, before we even ask that question, it is, it's somewhat ironic because there's so much fear in the business world,
Mhm.
and the only thing that drives out fear is love, but there's like a taboo to even talk about love, and it's the thing that people want the most, to be loved, seen, heard, known, affirmed. So did you see, was there a positive reception for the business leaders and governmental leaders that came into it?
Yeah, especially at the conference itself, as you can imagine, trying to rally people, especially business leaders, around
Mm.
a cause like that of bringing that word love into business. There was definitely some pushback.
Yeah, I bet.
Getting people there and getting sponsors and the space to an extent. But also people, I don't know, something happens, I think, when you talk to people about love and from a place that is just really genuine and, like, can you imagine going into an executive's office and someone that you have some kind of formed relationship with already, and you say to them, I want to host a business conference at your headquarters. It's going to be called the Love Summit. I know that this word might, get some pushback in business, but this is why it matters.
Mm.
And can you get on board with me here? And I mean, that's kind of like a version of the story that happened for us with the first Love Summit, which was hosted at Wyden and Kennedy, and Dan Wyden, the co-founder of
Mm.
Wyden and Kennedy, got on board with us because we had some sort of relationship with him, and that certainly helped. But he still had, questions about using that word love and concern about how people would receive it and if we would be able to get people at the conference. And then I just remember like the shift in his perspective was kind of like night and day between his hesitation, but then like being like, okay, fine, we'll do it and we'll just see how this goes,
Mm.
to being at the conference and him opening the conference with his keynote. And I think that like he had some experience or something personally when putting together his keynote and his speech about how he's incorporated love into
Wow.
his business, or how he did. He's passed now.
Yeah.
And I just remember him getting kind of teary during it, and just watching that transformation was really, really beautiful. And then I saw that happen for a multitude of other people at the conference. And then yeah, there is something though, I think that happens like with our sponsors when we went to them and we were talking to them about what the cause is about and why it matters. Like people just seem to, like you said, Lucas, people want this more than anything. It's really at the
Mm.
root of our deepest desires in life and all aspects of it. So I think when you can like tune in to people on that level and come from that really genuine place and that speaks to them, and that kind of soul level. I know that sounds hippy dippy, but like the truest part of who we are and what we really desire,
Yeah.
something switches in them and they open up and are willing to give things a shot. But you have to come from that place. It can't be like
Right.
the ego or anything fearful or anything that would trigger that in them. So yeah, I was pretty gratified and
Mm,
surprised, but yeah, gratified by the way things turned out.
that's so cool. What about, so you said you had a connection with it. I mean, growing up, I mean, share a little bit of your story growing up for everyone listening.
Sure. So my connection to love and kind of the reason why it's so top of mind for me, and including when this idea developed for the Love Summit, is because I grew up pretty untraditionally with a very alternative mother, both in like diet and lifestyle. Like grew up on a macrobiotic diet, which is basically like a vegan diet before it was trendy and cool. So I was actually like pretty embarrassed by it and
Wow.
didn't
Wow.
didn't love that, but that was part of the experience. And then
Mm,
also my mom was quite spiritual and but not in a something I very much appreciate about my mom is she has that side to her that's spiritual and very deep, but she also is quite business minded and
mm,
practical. So seeing the world, from both sides is has been such a blessing for me to have her as a mom and grow up with that and that kind of
mm.
like groundedness. Because I think sometimes with spirituality, especially alternative spirituality, it can
Yeah.
kind of like put people in the clouds. So I grew up with that, but she was also very much like her philosophy and the ethic that I grew up with in our household was a philosophy of love. She
Mm.
studied A Course in Miracles and was very
Oh,
fond of
yeah.
that. And it was her journey out of kind of like Christianity, Catholicism, and that's what she found that kind of helped her still have a relationship with God, if you
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
and her the positive parts of Catholicism and Christianity, the things that she loved about it, but without the shame and guilt and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
if you know anything about A Course in Miracles, really like the core philosophy and the message of that book is love.
Mm,
And so I grew up with that was like our religion
mm,
or our philosophy in our household. And so I was taught to always kind of look at the world from that place and people from that place and be on the lookout for like injustice in the world and always taught by my mom how to express more compassion and be compassionate towards people.
mm.
And so yeah, that's love and compassion have always been top of mind for me since I was a child. I remember like growing up and just and being little, in school and all and being really disturbed or like troubled by
Mm.
even like the little things like kids bullying each other or not
Yeah.
being kind to each other or kids being unrecognized by their peers or a teacher. People being mistreated, it just always really bothered me. And I don't
Mhm.
know if it's because, I was just very aware of those things because of, like I said, my mom teaching me how to be compassionate and look out for a lack of compassion in the world. But for whatever reason, it's probably a little bit of both of like my own soul's journey in this lifetime and also how I was molded and shaped by what I grew up with at home. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. And then I also, I was just thinking about this before our, call tonight and thinking about my story because, often on podcasts, people ask you, what's your story? And, or, in interviews and stuff. And I kind
Yeah.
of struggle with that question. And I think a lot of people do
Mm.
because, our stories are big and life is
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple, but it's complex and a lot happens. And it's like, how do you want people to see you? And what do you want to be like identified by? And like, what do you want to identify with? And I was talking to my boyfriend the other night about my father and the absence of my father in my life. My biological father. I have a wonderful stepfather.
Mm.
who's adopted me and did when I was very little. But I remember similarly to being, disturbed by mistreatment of kids at school and that kind of thing, feeling very confused and disturbed by the fact that my father left before I was born, and that I didn't know him, and
Wow.
he lived in another country in Lebanon, and I was very, I just remember being quite little. Like Jared, my boyfriend, asked me the other night, what's the first memory you have of your stepdad coming into your life, and then first memory of your father?
Mm.
Or like realizing that your father isn't around. And it was at quite a young age. And I just remember being so confused and like saddened by it. Um, and then I think that's informed kind of my sense of justice, like what's right and wrong. And, I use these words loosely, but like
Yeah.
just and fair and wanting to understand how someone could do that,
Mm.
like abandon a child that they know exists and brought in to the world.
Yeah.
And then there was one more thing I was going to say on that was related. Oh, and then of course, as you can imagine, I feel like it's the quintessential story of, girl who is abandoned by her father and how that results into her actions, or it could be, for
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Sure.
boy being abandoned by his father, or, these
Right.
different kind of complex traumas that happen to us, and how that informs our decision making. And so there were a lot of things that I did when I was younger that I think that if I had, it wasn't just my father being around, not being around, and if I had had him around, how I would have been different. There were other things in my life too that contributed, but
Mm.
yeah, just like experiencing and looking back now at like, oh, that's why I behaved the way that I did when I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a teenager or whatever. And just, so that's been a part of my journey and journey with love and trying to understand all of these different pieces of my quote unquote story and how
Yeah.
it's fed into my interest in love.
And having compassion on yourself, I'm sure, has been a
Yes.
big part of that. Yeah. I said
Yeah.
in my TED talk, I talk about not judging people who have gone through abuse because in any form, abandonment abuse,
Hmm.
I don't, I don't like that this word just gets categorized to extreme violence or verbal or, it's the deep wounding. And but I said, when we experience this, it changes our internal beliefs structure of who we are, and all behavior is an output of our internal belief structure. So we're
Hmm.
judging people's behavior when really we need to have compassion on their belief structure that leads to that behavior. And so I'm
Hmm.
sure that journey for you has been, I mean, how having a spiritual mom, I'm sure you're aware of these concepts, but how have you, I don't know, opened those doors to heal those?
I mean, it's really been through, like you alluded to, these things that happen to us and that we experience, like not having a parent around. And what I meant really is like that was, I guess it could be considered a complex trauma, but it was really like a deep wound that then led to me choosing things that were actually complex traumas, like abusive
Mm,
relationships, and yeah, other things that were not good for me.
right, right.
And what's helped with my healing, or is helping, ironically or not, I don't know, is actually going through, it's like, I don't know, I feel like I woke up like several years ago and was like, I just kind of started to have this aha about, I think I started to become more self-aware just of
Mm,
aware of who I am and my decisions that I've made in my life and why I am the way that I am. And I started really looking back at the past and kind of dissecting it and asking myself questions about like why did I choose this, I think because I left home when I was 18 to go to college, and then I lived in a bunch of different places, and like my life really changed after I left home and left high
Mm,
school and went to college for the better. It really transformed, but I never faced what
yeah.
happened in the past. I just left, and I have always been of the kind of nature like keep calm, carry on, be strong.
Yeah.
And so I thought I wasn't really affected anymore by I don't know what had happened to me when I was younger. But what ended up happening in my adult life is some of those similar types of relationships that had caused me a lot of pain that I chose in my younger years started to come back,
Mm,
and
yeah.
not the same people, but like different characters,
Yeah.
or same characters, like different play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was forcing me to be like, okay, are you going to choose this again? Or are you going to change? And that was incredibly painful because it made me realize, first of all, I had that recognition of just myself and that self-awareness and like, oh my gosh, this is why I chose these things before and this is coming up again now. And yeah, it took a lot to kind of like go in the other direction and not choose those same patterns and stories that I really had about myself and who I am and my worth
Mm,
and my dignity and stuff. So it's been quite a healing journey, especially the last 5 years or 6 years or so, as
yeah.
this has, come up and started happening. And it's been quite painful at times, but I can say, and I know that, like, the healing journey never ends. I think
Yeah.
that we're in
Oh,
that our whole lives.
for sure. Yeah.
But and it's not always easy, but what I can say for sure is that I'm still in it and it's getting better. And if you can continue, I think if we can continue to like to choose love and even when it's hard and
Mm,
painful, and keep our eye like on that North Star and just keep walking towards it, it does get better and the healing does continue, and often not as quickly as we think
yeah.
or want it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking back from where I am now to say like 5 years ago, it is night and day. So I feel
Mm,
grateful for the kind of revisiting of those past traumas and those, people that came into my life that kind of were a mirror for me and gave me the opportunity, though painful, to kind of grow beyond those
yeah.
experiences.
Absolutely. I totally understand. I I got to this place where I had to thank every single person in my life for all the pain that they brought because all they did was play the perfect role.
Hmm.
They just played their perfect role. And we soul journeyed, we contracted together for whatever reason. And yeah, it brought me pain, but without the pain, you wouldn't be able to bless, like for you personally, to lead into starting the Love Summit or
Hmm.
how we connected and all the cool things that are to come. And it's because we experienced that pain that we're fueled to or inspired to or feel called to help others. And at the end, I mean, everyone played their perfect role, but it doesn't mean that it's not sad. I think I just put a video out right before we hopped online talking about crying. I had this functional nutritionist, but she's does meridian fascia healing and I don't know actually all the things that she's certified in, but I was talking about children heal faster because they cry. They
Hmm.
cry it out, they let that energetic release go, they express all that energy, and then they're done. And I have 4 kids. I mean, they'll cry and then it's like, oh, on to the next
Yeah,
thing. You're like, oh,
yeah.
I thought you were just sad, you know? But that's the process. And then somehow well, I know how, but we get conditioned that that's no longer appropriate. That's no longer, you know, adults don't do that. We don't do that. And I don't even mean from a masculine or feminine point of view. It's just not. encouraged to cry. And yet I
Mhm.
was talking on the podcast, this is a video, I was talking about we have to cry again. We have to feel that and cry. And she said that our skin is the biggest organ and that when we cry, it releases the fascia behind our in between our shoulder blades and it
Hmm.
releases everything else. And then we actually detox every time we cry. And so there is this physiological and emotional healing that takes place from the tears. And I'm like, why are we not crying more? I mean, it's so interesting. And I guess I just want to acknowledge for you, it is sad. And I'm not trying to make you sad right now, but it is sad. It's sad what people go through. It's sad what we've experienced. And there's nothing wrong. I think part of the journey is just to have someone come and say, yeah, that is sad. That was sad. Um, we moved in end of November 2021 from Seattle to Dallas. My wife was pregnant with our fourth, and very intense time because I didn't comply with the mandate, and my job was. I was told I had 6 more weeks of income, and they were going to cancel the contract and all these things. It was really, really intense time. But I did this mushroom journey with this husband and wife, beautiful friends of mine. And the week before, our dog of 15 years died. We're
Oh,
moving. It's Thanksgiving. I mean, it was like hit after hit after hit. The world was so wild. And I thought I was going to hold space for them. And I ended up just sobbing. And I was brought back to all the times like the week before I gave my TED talk. I called my dad, I called my mom, and I didn't talk to my dad in a long time, and I called him and I said, hey, I just want you to know I love you and I've always loved you. I'll always love you. And that's all I want to say. And I hung up and I never got a call back.
wow.
And I mean, years go by. Listen now, like I'm gonna get a call. That's not what I'm looking for. But in that moment, in that night, I was like, that is so sad. It for me, I was just like, God, that is so sad. I was just sobbing like this little boy in me who wanted that love so badly. I did do anything. I absorbed everything. I did it. And I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm just sharing with you that it's such a beautiful process that you've gone through. And also, if no one's told you that it's sad, I'm telling you as your brother, that is sad and it's okay. And I think so many times we just I don't know. The world is just set up. I love that you're doing the love summit. I love that your mom raised you the way it is, and yet here we are, adults on a podcast, and we're still kind of in this world where everyone's still masked up, and it's like everyone's carrying pain. The whole
Yeah.
world is like
Mhm.
a basket of secret pain, and I'm so thankful that you just shared what you shared because this is the invitation for all of us to just go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Well, I've never shared any of this publicly on a podcast,
Mm.
so forgive me if I've been quite verbose, I feel,
No,
and
it's
I'm also
beautiful.
slightly
No, it's
sick, so
beautiful.
I'm like a little bouncing around, but love to hear about the studies or the science behind crying and
Yeah,
it is so cathartic. I should do it more. I feel like I'm one of those people that just walks around masked up like, oh, I'm strong. Like it's very seldom do I cry in front of people. It feels
mhm.
like super vulnerable to me and
Sure,
very
sure.
difficult. But also love hearing about your story with, everything that you were dealing with when you left Seattle and moved
Mm.
to Texas and then that call to your dad. I mean, that's a lot that you had going on for you and on your plate. And of course, I mean, I think that we need to make normal that people have sadness around,
Yes,
especially a parent,
yes,
the
yes.
person that the people that bring us into this world are meant to love us or we're taught are meant to love us unconditionally and more than anybody else of like of course there is going to be sadness around that and I think especially with men a lot of, I don't mean to generalize, but I guess generalizations exist for a reason. I have noticed that more than the women I know who have grown up without a parent or like had a falling out with a parent, often I find that men, especially related to their father, like if a man is in the same position as me with
Mhm.
their dad and the dad left before they were born or like abandoned him when
Mhm.
he was a kid, I most of the guys I've met who have that, they're just like, oh, screw him. He's just,
Mhm.
to the father. Like, why would I even want him in my life?
Yeah.
In some sense, like I appreciate that sentiment and I'm like, yeah, power to you. Like that's probably quite helpful
Yeah.
in living your life. And because I tried to adopt kind of some of that mindset myself later in my adult life. Not the it's like it's not a hatred or negativity. It's just like for me anyways, like I don't feel that towards my father, but it
Yeah.
is like when I'm objective about it, I'm like, why would I, this person didn't want to be in my life. I can have feelings around that and be sad about that, but like why would I desire for someone to be in my life that or
Yeah.
continue to like give energy to that if they're not interested. So
Totally.
going back to the men that I've witnessed have similar relationships with their biological fathers and how they respond differently. I think part of it is helpful and useful, but the other part of it is like there has to be sadness there that you might not be
Yeah.
expressing. And
Yeah.
I just hope there can be a balance for people of like using both the logic and the feeling and not
Yeah.
being afraid of the feeling and the sadness.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Um, I think too, the sadness is not for the actual parent themselves, meaning I don't want that in my life at all. I wouldn't, but they're not who that little boy or that little girl wants. That little boy or that little girl wants the parent that we wished they were, not the person that they are. And that's I think, where the sadness comes in. And
Yeah.
I wrote this song the other day. I was really, I don't know, I had this like revisiting of these emotions. And I wrote, I wished it was you that I could trust that I could trust. When I got hurt in your arms, I could rush. But as a grown man, I look back at all the life that I've lived to tear down the walls. A little boy who needed a dad, the man that you were always mad. The lies and deceit were constant for me, but now that I'm older, I finally see. And then this is like the hook. It's everything I did, I tried to always make you proud. You gave me pain in return for being too loud. Now look around. I wished it was you. And it was this like cathartic song that I was writing
Hmm.
because it's not that I want that man.
Hmm.
I want the man that whatever I needed, and they're not here for that. And that's, I think, part of this journey. Like my heart is that there is, I know I love God and I like to use this term, but it's not a religious term for me and it's not connected to any constricted or confined or institutional thing. But I really believe that, like oxygen, like you and I are breathing oxygen right now, like every person listening, that's love. It's
Hmm.
accessible at every present moment. And the more we can express the pain, the hurt, the sorrow, the just all stuffed down feelings, I think we create space inside of our heart to receive more love. Like if
Hmm.
we're shallow breathing, we get a little bit of oxygen. And we take that deep expanded breath. And I feel like that's where I would love to see humans, like even, and I'm talking a lot now, but men, I think, got even trapped in this. I love Stoicism. I have all the books on Stoicism. I read it all, but I think
Hmm.
that's also a trap because it just
Hmm.
teaches the mind to double down and keep things more in lockdown versus, and if that was effective, then the world would be different. And I've also said this, if like the form of masculinity that is like this like macho, like intense, like whatever is the right form, then the military would be healing the world.
You're
But
right.
but I think we're finding out that it's not necessarily the case.
Hmm.
And so we have to do, I think, the opposite of what we've always done. And that is, I think, to go. into these emotions. And that doesn't make us weak. It actually makes us incredibly strong. Like you're
Mm,
incredibly strong to even talk about what you just did. And that's the encouragement. I think people feel like I'm weak if I'm crying. No, you're actually the strongest person that I know that can
mm,
face that, hold that, and express that.
mhm, mhm. That's such a good point about stoicism. And yeah, gosh, I feel like we should talk about that more. I like stoicism a lot myself, and I've read
Yeah,
some
sure.
and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
um, yeah, I could see how it could perpetuate that type of masculinity that's needed at times. Like I
Yes,
think like that like
absolutely.
groundedness and that not like lack of feeling, but just, the down to earth kind of centered
Yeah,
um, person, but
yeah.
also can totally see how that could take away from the feeling and just being too, it's kind of like I just picture like a rock just sitting there with like, no life really or
Right,
feeling.
right.
Um, but yeah, and then yeah, I think what comes up for me a lot in these conversations about masculinity and men and them wanting to feel and have, permission to feel, if you will, but also still be seen as a man and strong, because that is so much of our, you know, their DNA, our DNA as a people, just like how
Yeah,
we've molded and
yeah,
evolved as a humanity and how men have evolved. And I think it's healthy and normal and natural for and okay for men to want to be quote unquote macho at times,
yeah.
but also to find the balance and have the permission to be both that strong man that is the quintessential like quote unquote strong, but also creating a new definition of what that means and look of what
Mhm.
that means as well. Like it's okay to cry, it's okay to
Yeah,
be sad, it's okay to show your emotions, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to have feelings about things.
yes.
Doesn't have to make you less of a man.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting as you're talking, I've never talked about this nor thought about it, but um, even a male physiology versus a female's physiology, like when there's intimacy in sex, like the man gets hard and penetrates and the woman gets soft and receives. But if a man is constantly hard, and I don't mean to make this super graphic, but if you think about just like emotionally, a man can't be hard the whole time. That would
No,
be something's wrong there. But yet they think if they're emotionally hard the whole time, that that's the way to go when there's times to be and there's times not to be. And probably,
that is
I'm
such a good point.
sorry. Yeah, but isn't it interesting? I'm trying.
Yeah, are you going to
Sorry,
cut this out
everyone
of the
listening, that
episode?
like putting that in your mind, but also super interesting.
No,
Um,
I've never thought about that, and that is such a valid point. Yeah,
but there's
I
times for hardness, of course, and but there's
yeah.
can't
Can't walk around being like that all the time. It would be very
exactly, and
uncomfortable.
of course also for women, you can't just like be receiving all the time. That would also
Yeah.
be not. That's not that's not nature. That's not natural.
Yeah.
And yet that's I think what's happening. And I'm when it, like lead retreats and I constantly talk about the law of nature. And the law of nature is constantly giving and receiving,
Hmm.
releasing and receiving, always in constant synchronicity with all that is.
Hmm.
The trees express carbon dioxide, we breathe it in.
Hmm.
Or oxygen, whatever, like vice
And
versa. I think I
yeah,
messed that one up,
gotcha.
but they release their leaves. The leaves cover the grass. The grass absorbs all the nutrients from the leaves and it fertilizes the ground and it brings more. I mean, it's constantly in the cycle. And I think the unhealed versions of us, we separate ourselves from nature's cadence, and that's where we get sick and
Hmm.
stuck and lost. And of course, our default is to feel better. We all want to feel better. So
Hmm.
then people will seek things to make them feel better,
Hmm.
sex, drugs, whatever, alcohol, work, golf. I don't know. I joke around at men's retreats. I'm like, golf is a cult. Like, sorry for a guy listening. It's more a joke, but all these things make us feel better in that temporary state. But I think we really feel the best. We feel free and alive when we can get back to that releasing and receiving state, like
Hmm.
everything outside of our homes is doing
Hmm.
right now.
I love that. Yeah, that's a really good analogy or comparison with nature. And if only we could just allow ourselves to be like nature. I mean, we are
Mm.
nature. I think that's our problem as a civilization, or humanity's like ultimate issue is we've tried to act as though we are separate from nature
Yeah.
when we really are the same, and that's the cause of so much of our disease. And not that nature doesn't have its own diseases, it does, but it's like you're saying, the what did you say, the release or the contraction?
Releasing and receiving. Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
releasing and receiving. Yeah, it's like it always heals itself. And like you just said, for humans, we're always wanting to get back to health, but I think our minds, these intelligent minds are
Yes.
sometimes quite unintelligent and can get us in trouble,
Yeah. Yeah.
take us away from the natural rhythms that we intuitively know. But yeah, and sometimes the logic can kind of get in the way, or the rational mind.
Hmm. One of the things I want to ask you about, you're such a beautiful writer.
Hmm.
Your word composition and the deep well of like you are a deep well. When, and this might seem off topic of what we were just talking about, but I think there's something deeply connected to it. Is when did you start expressing yourself through written form like that?
Hmm. Well, first of all, thank you. That is a huge compliment. I
Thank you.
started writing when I was, I don't know, young, I think probably early teens, or maybe like, I don't know, 10, 11, but mostly I think early teens. It started as an expression of a lot of my pain and through music. Actually, that was like my first love in life, was music and singing and writing songs. And then later it turned into poetry. And then I started more long form, like when, I don't know, my later teenage years and in college, and wish I did more of it.
Hmm.
And yeah, really appreciate that compliment. And same to you, Lucas. I've been reading your manuscript, and I'm
You're
a little over
just
halfway through, and it's been so incredibly touching and helpful to me on a personal level, but also just seeing how you weave in, I mean, kind of like our conversation and everything we're talking about. You've got like neuroscience in there.
yeah.
You've got the human experience and like our natural experience, and then the trauma piece, and the personal piece,
Hmm.
and then the like how to kind of like helpful journal prompt, what actions to take piece. And I've just been so thoroughly impressed how you've connected all those dots and turned them into such a not only useful and helpful manuscript and what will be a book, but also just your eloquence and your ability to articulate and, weave these things together is quite remarkable.
Thanks.
Mhm.
You're awesome. Thank you.
No, you're
I
welcome.
received that. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, I with all of me believe we're entering the most beautiful time. I don't believe this fear-based. I think everything's working out exactly the way it's supposed to be working out in the world. And I know the world is crazy, and I know that it seems so dark, but it's always darkest before the dawn. And again, nature's rhythm cannot be broken. It will never be broken. The sun will rise. And I feel like you and I meeting in so many of these beautiful lights that in different times my light's been dimmer, your light's been brighter, or your light's been dimmer, like we're all, it's not about comparing, it's just we all are doing our own work and we're meeting right now. I'm meeting so many incredible souls. And I'm like, wow, the grid, if I use that word, is covered. The world might fall. Like I was on this plant medicine journey and I chuckled to myself um, about all these politicians because I'm like, they're serving a purpose to, I personally believe that what's all the people and all why it's so chaotic is they're meant to break our spell of giving our power to these institutions. They were never meant to liberate us. They were only meant to entrap us. And then we keep giving into the entrapment, thinking that the entrapment's going to change or we can
Mm,
change the entrapment. It's an insane but brilliant paradigm that's being broken right now. And I think Trump was the one to come in and just break it and be brash. And he
mm.
says these things and he breaks fake news. And I mean, it was like everything that was is no longer. And my point is to all this isn't going to last forever. It's not going to be in perpetuity. So
No.
what comes out of this, I think, is going to be so beautiful.
Hmm.
And I don't know, just talking to you and meeting you, like I said before we started, like meeting you, I felt really encouraged. Like I feel like I've been putting more content out since you and I's first conversation. Wow,
Mm.
like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I just want to tell you, even though you gave me that compliment in the manuscript and I receive it and thank you,
Hmm.
you're the same. I mean, we can only see, I think, the frequency that we're in, and you're doing it.
Thanks, Lucas. Well, the feeling is mutual, and I just have so enjoyed connecting with you. And I know it's only been a few weeks.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't even believe it. It feels
right.
longer than that, and it feels, I can feel that there's a lot of great work ahead, and I feel very blessed that our paths crossed and that Ryan introduced us. And
Yeah.
yeah, you've brought similar to, what you were talking about with politicians, how I took that is kind of like they bring to light and they kind of mirror what is needed and what needs to change.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a whole like metaphor of the sun will always rise,
Yeah.
darkest before dawn that you
Yeah.
just recited. Yeah, I hope you're right that this cycle that we are in now, we will certainly come out of it because we
Yeah.
always have these cycles.
Yeah.
But I hope you're right that it will break
Yeah.
at some point soon. Like that this is not just another cycle that we're going through and that we're going to repeat the same one. And I think it's my job, your job, people like us, our job to be optimistic and to see that light and the hope and the possibility for change. And I, on like the deepest level, I feel that and believe that. But
Mm.
then my logical mind and rational mind is also like, well, we just repeat the same cycle over and over and we don't learn. And here we are again. But
Yeah.
I still have hope that it can change and things can be different. And my biggest message is always just that it starts with us. It doesn't start with the politician. It doesn't
Mhm.
start with the business. Politicians are basically businesses. Businesses are just groups of people. And the
Yes.
change needs to start with each and every individual and that person, one person taking the step. And if we all do that together,
Yeah.
things will change. But it relies on that, not on, one individual, one politician, one
Yeah.
corporation, one government. It's every single one of us.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, I'll stop preaching.
No, I love it. Are you kidding? No, preach. Preach, Samantha Thomas.
Yeah.
Um, what what would you love to see for all the work that you're doing? I mean, you've done so much beautiful work and worked with so many prolific people and the Love Summit and but what would you love to see by taking all that you've done and bring it into the future? Like, what are you hoping to create for yourself?
That's a big question, and a very thoughtful one. Thank you for asking.
Mm.
I've been thinking about that a lot recently as I've been looking at what I want this next iteration of my work to be. There's a lot of changes that now that I feel like I'm slowly making my way back to the public space and not being completely like behind the curtain. How do I want to show up? How do I want to help people? What do people really need the most? And I would like to and am continuing my coaching. I do both business coaching and personal coaching, writing, workshops.
Yeah.
We're going to do a workshop.
Yep. I can't wait.
Um, but what I think, between all of these things, And also I do brand strategy. Sorry, that's another thing for an entrepreneur and founder, and that's something I'll continue doing in the future. Between all of these things and these different avenues that I pursue or we pursue in our work, I think what people are needing most right now and what the world needs and what people want most is integrity and
Mm.
authenticity and truth
Yes.
and slowness and presence. And
Mm.
I think it's because we are living in this digital age where speed is and just like pushing out content, like content,
Yeah, yeah,
that we're just
totally.
like all like inundated all of the time.
Yeah.
And I know I think a lot of the world operates on autopilot. So we pick up our phones and we open Instagram or the news and we might think that we like it or it's easy and convenient. And it is. And I'm not saying like digitization is completely horrible, but I mean, we all know this. It's taken away from our happiness in many
Yeah.
ways and our connection with each other. And I think that people really need to people who believe in slowness and care about that and presence and love and human connection, we really need to take a stand for not being connected digitally all the time and not just pushing out content 24/7 or feeling like content is king. Like,
Yeah.
what about presence with each other and in human, like actual life?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And not just being online all the time and sharing only when it really feels like you have something to say that isn't, that is worth making noise for. I think the
Mm.
world is so noisy right now and it's hard to, it can be confusing. It takes away from understanding how we actually feel about things if we're like constantly just inundated with content.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've kind of digressed, but to bring it back where it connects is just that what I hope to do through my work and coaching and brand strategy, business coaching, life coaching, love coaching, my writing.
Mm.
If I do another love summit, which I've been talking about and kind of ideating on recently, is I think that that point around the human connection and the need for connection and the need for slowing down
Mm.
is really important, and I think people really need that. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I want to bring in all aspects of my work, and I just want to help people. That's really
Yeah.
what I want. I want to help people heal. I want to help people feel aligned in their personal life and business life and home life, and
Mm.
I call it congruence coaching. That's kind of the
Yeah.
kind of
Love that.
coaching that I do, so people feel congruent in their lives and compassion towards themselves and the and
Mm.
others and the courage to do the things that we've been taught are difficult or not likely or probable because it's like dreaming too big, and
Mm.
I believe we can be and do anything that we want, and this is all just a story that we are creating. And I think we're here for a short time, and I want people to be happy and for us to all feel like we enjoyed and had a life well lived and helped others, while we're here. So that's my goal. And it's not totally in my control how it all unfolds. So
Sure.
I see my role as just the best that I can do is putting one foot in front of the other,
Yeah.
taking as many actions as I can take towards that. And the rest is up to kind of, creation and how my story and Samantha's work unfolds in the rhythm and cycle of everything else.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, whatever I can do to support you, you have my full support, and I'm
Mhm.
so thankful we met. Seriously, you know that I've shared that many times, but I just want to say thank you and thanks for coming on. And I feel like we could keep talking forever, but
I'll
this
let you go to sleep.
let's just count this as the first of many. And
Sounds great.
really grateful for you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Lucas, and likewise, such a pleasure meeting meeting you and being with you here tonight.
Well, sis, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's such a beautiful conversation. And everyone, love is the answer. And it's not a quote or it's not even, a nice saying, a colloquialism or some surface. It is the depth of reality. Everything exists because love allows it to be. And if you can find that natural rhythm, go outside and watch right now in this season, watch the leaves fall. Observe the releasing so that it can receive. And it is such a beautiful time in nature to watch this cadence and rhythm. So I encourage every single one of you to go outside and find this for yourself. I bless you all. And I am Lucas Mack. I will talk to you on the next episode. Thank you for listening. If you're struggling to break free and need support, go to my website at lucasmack.com. There you'll find resources like videos and ebooks, and also information on how to work with me for coaching. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.